Gainesville, Florida, August 1990. Police photographs from that week remain sealed in a cold metal drawer at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. Duplicates only. 5 students slain, each scene meticulously staged, each door locked from the inside. Neighbors had first reported only a tapping sound at night. A student thought it was the air conditioning vent. Another swore she heard soft country music through the wall. Within days, apartments stood empty, textbooks left open, coffee still warm. At the time, it seemed like another summer of campus crime. But the details, the posing of the bodies, the tape found in a backpack, the knife patterns, echoed a mind studying his own shadow. Everyone thought it was just a murder spree, later turned movie monster fiction. But the police reports kept coming, small echoes of performance in each. Decades later, Hollywood would soften this story and give the killer a mask. 1990 was Florida's year of false calm. The University of Florida had just welcomed new students. Fraternity trucks still hauled in furniture along 34th Street. On August 24th, Sonia Larson and Christina Powell didn't answer calls. Their apartment on Archer Road looked untouched, save for one detail recorded by Detective Don Maines. Front door frame shows no visible forced entry, but damage consistent with knife tip manipulation. The room temperature was recorded at 84 degrees. Ceiling fan turned low. Both victims had been arranged as if in rehearsal. On a notepad, a single word was scrawled twice: choice. Neighbors reported hearing music, a radio softly playing country love songs, around 3 a.m. Initially, Gainesville police suspected a boyfriend. Everyone did. The rituals didn't fit the small-town logic yet. That weekend, a second call came in from another complex, just off SW 20th Avenue. By August 26th, the city's fear had a pattern. The third and fourth victims, Tracy Pauls and Manuel Taboada, were friends, both University of Florida students. Taboada, a physically strong man, showed defensive wounds. Forensic photographs documented torn shower curtains, overturned furniture, footprints in mixed blood and dust. Pauli's apartment showed a new motif. The killer brought tools, tape, gloves, cleaning solutions. He'd wiped, arranged, looked back. Local newspapers hesitated to print the word staged. Only one note from investigator Rod Smith hinted at what witnesses privately whispered. Positioning appears intentional, possibly aimed at press or police reaction. The police scanners crackled that week with panic. Students fled campus, a reported 12,000 withdrawals within 9 days. In dorm lobbies, volunteers formed sleep patrols. The university installed bars on windows previously painted shut. Still, no one used the name yet. 300 miles north, a stack of Shreveport police files began to look familiar. In 1989, a family of 3, the Grissams, had been murdered in Louisiana. The uncle, an investigator, noticed nearly identical tool marks. The suspect back then, Danny Harold Rolling, born 1954 in Shreveport, son of a police officer. His military discharge papers described disciplinary instability. His psychiatric evaluation, dated 1979, noted paranoid personality, probable trauma conditioning. When Gainesville detectives received the cross-state telex on September 5th, they underlined one phrase in red ink: known to carry a K-bar knife, record of voyeurism, history of mimicry, and voice recordings. Danny Rolling had vanished months earlier after an attempted robbery. Locals still thought the killer was one of them. But the handwriting, the knife sheath, and the obsession with self-recording hinted otherwise. The first tape would surface soon. In September 1990, officers cleaning an abandoned campsite in a wooded area behind the University Inn found a small pile. A black backpack, a tape recorder, a tent soaked by rain. Inside, the recording began with the sound of insects. Then a man's voice, calm, rehearsed, almost paternal. "This is the making of me. Danny Rolling, Gemini." He spoke as if narrating a life documentary, sometimes humming songs by his favorite country artist, Lobo. Investigators transcribed 46 minutes of the tape. Phrases later matched his walls of written confession. One line read, "You're looking for me, so here I am." The media never played it publicly, but an edited excerpt was used in FBI behavioral training in 1992 to demonstrate deliberate identity construction. That phrase, identity construction, became central. Rolling wasn't just killing, he was performing himself into existence. Television vans had settled permanently in Gainesville by late August. CNN's coverage described police in serial slayer hunt. Every dorm camera tried to catch shadow movement, but the public fixation birthed copy acts. Within 10 days, Gainesville police logged 11 false confession calls. A janitor was beaten by students after being seen carrying a knife for maintenance. Unknown callers whispered threats through dorm intercoms. "You're next." Psychologist reports later called it sympathetic hysteria, but to witnesses, it felt like infection. Crime reporters spoke of seeing university bulletin boards filled with prayers and drawings of angel wings near taped headlines. "When fear names a face," one journalist later wrote, "people begin to see it everywhere." This collective haunting, fear feeding on exposure, became part of the record. It's what made Gainesville different. The real horror wasn't just his acts, but how quickly the town echoed them. September 8, 1990. Ocala police arrested a man robbing a grocery store. He sang quietly as he was handcuffed. Fingerprints matched those on a can found at the Gainesville campsite. Booking file, Rolling Danny H., age 36, alias Michael Kennedy Jr. In custody, he requested a Bible and a guitar. Sheriff's logs noted his first drawing request: 1 pen, 1 pad. Over weeks, he sketched crosses, jail guards, faces half light, half mask. Detective Ken Hauptley reported after the first interview, "Subject switches accents, appears to practice 1 confessional voice and 1 interview voice, claims Gemini told him what to do." Local priests visited, believing multiple personality disorder might be at play. Forensic psychiatrists contested this, noting deliberate dramatization, but the line between belief and manipulation blurred early. When court officials played one tape for evaluation, a juror described it as like hearing someone record his own horror movie. Meanwhile, letters began arriving at Alachua County Jail. Some pleaded for forgiveness, others praised him as a misunderstood artist. The sheriff's assistant, Brenda Timmons, kept a file. Correspondence, Rolling D. Over 200 letters within the first 6 months, many signed with hearts. A 19-year-old woman from Jacksonville later said she wanted to understand what he saw. Media theorists now mark this as the birth of murder fandom. Prison policy soon forbade further direct fan mail, a rule later echoed in other high-profile cases. Still, Rolling's words spread. His poems were copied into zines, and prison guards confiscated several lyric sheets referencing dark reflections. Each transcription recreated him, another ghost in public imagination. That pattern, this multiplication of identity, would later feed a writer's pen in Los Angeles. In 1991, months after Rolling's capture, a roommate of one of the victims, identified in archives only as L.H., collected leftover photographs for a private memorial. Among them was one damaged by water, a blurred dorm window reflecting camera flash. When investigators cataloged the photo in evidence box number 22, they labeled it unclear light anomaly. Years later, it would resurface in a UF Museum student exhibition titled Echoes of Archer Road. The image became one of Gainesville's quietest relics. In interviews, L.H. stated, "People came to look at that photograph, whispering, as if waiting for something to move." The exhibit ran only 2 weeks before complaints from families prompted its removal. L.H. left town shortly after, writing her last note to local press. "Please stop naming the demon. Every name keeps him alive." The trial opened in April 1994. Rolling pleaded guilty to all 5 murders. Court transcripts archived at the Alachua County Courthouse reveal striking preparation. Typed notes were titled Closing Narrative. He read a poem to the court beginning, "The Sinner's Journey Through Shadow and Soul." Relatives of victims described the ordeal as theater. He wanted the attention more than mercy. When asked for last words before sentencing, he responded calmly, "No." He was given the death penalty. FBI analysts later used the case to study narcissistic scripting in serial offenders, crimes designed for retrospective narration. That concept, Leonie's a self-scripted killer using communication as weapon, drew attention from a freelance screenwriter named Kevin Williamson. Watching Rolling's televised trial in 1994, he started drafting a script called Scary Movie. Its first line, "A phone rings." Producer Kathy Conrad later recalled in interviews that Williamson's script channeled the dread of that Florida summer, the idea that the killer calls you and performs for the audience. When Wes Craven agreed to direct, he insisted on emotional realism, fear through banality, everyday houses, cordless phones, news vans. To separate fiction from Gainesville's trauma, Craven modified the figure, a mask, a voice changer, and a motive that constantly shifts. In early drafts, the killer's costume was modeled after a black and white scream painting found in a California novelty store in 1995. Yet even under layers of satire, Rowling's DNA remained. The self-filming, the dual identity, the performance of fear as communication. Critics missed that connection at first, but some Florida newspapers quietly objected, noting the movie's release date, December 1996, fell on the 6th anniversary of Rowling's sentencing. Hollywood, one editorial wrote, has learned to wear our wounds. In 1999, Gainesville's Historical Society created a sealed storage wing for sensitive exhibits. Police objects not destroyed in testing were cataloged: knife sheath, camera, shoes, excerpts of tape transcriptions. The case tab is plain white, EX90243R, sublabel, restricted view, family consent required for print use, archivist Tony Borsella described in a 2001 interview. Sometimes at night, the recorder light flickered red, even disconnected. We stopped leaving it plugged in. He laughed when he said it, but workers refused night shifts afterward. When the museum later digitized its inventory, the Rowling items were deliberately omitted from the public portal, listed instead as missing media, ethical restriction. Yet visitors kept asking about the tape box. Some claimed they'd heard breathing near that corner. That storage room remains locked. The rest of the museum operates above it, quietly aware the Foundation carries Gainesville's darkest hour. By the time Rowling was executed in October 2006, the world had turned digital. Live streams replaced front-page updates. Minutes before lethal injection, he sang a hymn. The song was recorded by prison chaplains and archived as Execution Audio, A124. Students who'd grown up on Scream read about it online that night. One comment thread repeated a line, "He outlived his mask." Another corrected, "No, the mask outlived him." That year, Gainesville police logged 5 separate tourist queries asking whether the apartment complexes from 1990 could be visited. The city quietly demolished 2 of them in 2007. Still, maintenance staff at the remaining site reported graffiti reappearing overnight, sketches of a long white face above red letters. Gemini, lives. No arrests were made. Even after his death, Rowling's story continued to move through screens, voices, and masks, like unfinished footage looping back to its start. The final entry in the Gainesville Historical Society's visitor log, dated March 2018, reads in uncertain handwriting, "Came to see the box, touched the glass, something rattled inside." A staff note beneath it adds, "Box not on display during that date." The handwriting was never identified. Today, the name Ghostface sells Halloween merchandise. The caller's voice is replicated for entertainment, but in Gainesville's archive, the original tapes remain sealed, magnetic strips corroding quietly in controlled humidity. When I stood there, as later narrators will, a red indicator reflected my camera lens. Out of habit, I switched the device off. Some stories shouldn't be captured twice, and as every curator learns, certain exhibits continue observing the ones who came to look. Record ends here.